All right, let's get to it then. Let's go and do our monthly market report.
What are people saying about this real estate market? So with that as a backdrop, let's go ahead and get started. Our monthly market report, we do all of this because of this belief right here, the belief that most agents right now in the business know what's happening. And I believe that's true. Good agents certainly understand what's happening, but only great agents can explain what's happening. And that's why we exist, right? Is to help agents explain what's happening out in the market. And I believe really, great agents in the coming year will definitely need to explain what is happening in this market. We will see some ebbs and flows. We will see volatility. We will see things like that, sort of impact the housing market. And what I'm going to do over the next few minutes is break down what forecasters are saying about the 2025 housing market. We're going to then cover a little bit of what are buyers and sellers looking for right now, and then I'll wrap up with a critically important topic of how do you create momentum? Where is opportunity at right now? And we will do that. So with that as a backdrop, let's hop in. Got a lot of quotes, got a lot of projections to cover and give all that to you. As always, if you're a KCM member, you grab these slides, you use them however you want to get this message out there. But we'll start right here. Greg McBride from Bankrate, he said this: most areas will still lean towards a seller's market due to the limited inventory of homes for sale, obviously. However, those markets that have seen a surge in inventory will definitely be more of a buyer's market, and we will be susceptible to price declines. So let me break this down. I think the overwhelming majority of the country right now will be more in a seller's market. But, certainly inventory is growing across the country. Days on market is growing across the country. Transaction volumes have fallen. But no doubt still not the number of homes we need. I think what we're heading towards actually this year is a more balanced market, but there will definitely be markets that are outliers. Miami and Florida certainly are seeing inventory growing, probably a buyer's market in a lot of areas. Austin, Texas, Boise, Idaho, there are these markets that are out there that will be more of a buyer's market this year, but I think we can safely look across the country and say it will be more of a seller's market, if not balanced market going into this new year and throughout 2025 for that matter. Freddie Mac said this: we are expecting house prices to continue to grow, although at a slower pace. That's a good thing. I would add the word at a healthy pace. That's an even better thing. We want to see healthy price appreciation in the real estate market. So what our team did and went out and looked at is what are the forecasters across the country saying about 2025 home price growth. And this is a look at 21 forecasters from the spectrum of a couple that are saying we're going to see prices decline to maybe all the way there, 5.5% price growth. The average about 2.9%. Let's call that 3% price growth. I'm going to say this. I think we will see very historically normal price growth in this country in residential real estate, not the unhealthy growth that we saw the last several years I mentioned. And that is a good thing. We want to see that. Remember, we wish for prices not to rise at the sort of pace that they had risen. That is a good thing. And now we're seeing that. And we're going to stay on top of this, but expect to see a lot of people think, well, it's going to be higher. I think it's going to be lower. It will depend on the local market that you're in, but this gives you a perspective of macro U.S. real estate. But here's the one thing that I can tell you. I do not see any reputable sources saying we're going to fall in price this year. Matter of fact, I don't have it in here, but we've talked about it in Keeping Current Matters. The home price expectation survey, which looks out 5 years, says about the same here, somewhere 3.5% price growth for the next 5 years. I think that's important for us to pay attention to in the health of real estate. Back to Greg McBride, rates were abnormally low for the better part of the last 15 years, and they've been abnormally high for the last 2 years. They're coming down, but where they'll settle out is going to be a level that's higher than what we'd seen before in 2022, maybe a little bit higher than what we've seen in the last decade, honestly. But I think that's important. A lot of that price growth, I think, will be measured by the direction of mortgage rates. We've covered mortgage rates extensively at Keeping Current Matters. I'll give you a little perspective visually, and then I'm going to kind of break down what a lot are saying and give you perspective on that. But this is a look from Fannie, MBA Wells. I'm going to bring a few more others in here in just a minute. Just graphically going back to the beginning of 2022, mortgage rates rising and then sort of plateauing out in this area somewhere between 6.5% and 7.5%. And there becomes this path for the coming year that's somewhere between 6 and 6.5% on the 30-year fix. Now, how far it goes down, how quickly it goes up, all of that will be dependent upon incoming economic data, which is a lot of times, as people are prognosticating on that right now, falls in line with what you believe about the incoming administration, what you believe about this economy, the health of the job market, how sticky will inflation be, so many of those things. But the issue right now is not just mortgage rates in the affordability crisis in this country. It's also the dramatic rate at which prices have risen over the last couple of years. It's squeezed out a lot of folks, but look for homes to be more affordable to buy as we go throughout the year, and certainly ending up the end of next year. Bank rate, again, waiting for lower rates is not guaranteed. Over time, you'll see prospective home buyers just start to throw in the towel. And I think we've seen a lot of folks sort of stay on the sidelines because of rising price. If you look at another perspective, this is a look at forecasters, 9 forecasters that say, okay, where will we end the year with mortgage rates? And I'm going to say this path starts to form again somewhere between 6 and 6.5. I saw a group, I won't mention names here, that said, rates are going to be somewhere between 7.5 and 5.5. That's a pretty wide lane. I think we can safely narrow that down to somewhere in the low 6s. Now, we get some good incoming data, or maybe even a scenario right now where bad news is good news. What I mean by that is maybe a bad jobs report comes in, gives us a little bit of help on mortgage rates. Certainly nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. But this incoming data could switch things. So we're gonna stay on top of it. We're gonna watch it. But that's the perspective I would give you as we start off 2025. Expect rates to be in a better scenario, a better, more affordable place than they are today by the end of the year. And that's a good thing. And I think I want to mention this, and I had our team, KCM research team, does a phenomenal job of gathering all this information. And you see a lot of posts right now that say, well, rates aren't that high. They were higher in the 70s or whatever the case is, or in the 80s in the Arab oil embargo, and it cost, 25% to buy a home or whatever that is. And that is true. Historically speaking, we're in a better spot. And here's even the graphic there, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010. But just think about this for a minute. While we're in a better spot than we've been in the 70s and 80s, and maybe even 90s for sure, in those decades, we'll likely be in a scenario this year for at least half the year, maybe more, where we're in a higher mortgage rate environment than what we've seen in the last 2 decades. That's important because so many people got into the business in the last 20 years. So many people bought homes in the last 20 years. We're looking at rates that we haven't seen in that long. And now, while they're not high from historical standards, what is high is the rate of appreciation that homes have, sort of the path they've been on. And so my coaching and my counsel on that is just remember that, right? Rates may be higher this year, even if you're listening, than when you've ever seen before in the business. Well, certainly not in the last year. We've seen higher rates, but they may settle in a place that's higher than what we've seen over the last couple of decades. That's important to remember. I think we will see more people into the market for a number of different reasons. I'll talk about that in just a second. But it's good context to understand all of this. Lawrence Yun, chief economist at NAR, said this: mortgage rates have averaged above 6% for the past 24 months. Let that sink in. Buyers are no longer waiting or expecting mortgage rates to fall substantially. Furthermore, buyers are in a better position to negotiate as the market shifts away from a seller's market. I think people have sort of acclimated to higher mortgage rates. It certainly doesn't help the affordability piece. If you can't afford to buy, you can't afford to buy. But people, I don't think, are looking at going, hey, I think we're going to be back in the threes, maybe a few, but not too many of them. Mike Simon, Senate Altos, think the world of Mike. They do a great job. 2025 is poised to continue the trends of rising inventory across the country. We'll probably finish 2025 with 15% more homes available than we have now. Interesting perspective. So we see very healthy price appreciation. We see mortgage rates coming down marginally. I'll say that now. Okay, we had a different view a few months ago, but see them coming down into 6 to 6.5, maybe beating that if we see some economic data that leads to that. But Mike here calling for 15%. Realtor.com is saying almost 12% growth in inventory over the coming year. That bodes well for anybody looking for a home. But I also think in a lot of markets, it will create a buy opportunity for people that maybe couldn't find something, or as things get a little bit more affordable, or they get a little bit more comfortable with the switching cost and moving into a higher rate, they'll be able to do that and feel more comfortable doing all that. All of this is pointing to another piece of information that I want to give you. And it's this right here. Total home sales. Listen to me, this is new homes and existing homes. I know you'll send emails in going, well, I thought it was lower than this. You're looking at existing homes. We've added the two together, projected for 2025, 5.1 million home sales. I do believe we'll see more homes sell this coming year than we saw in 2024 for a combination of reasons. One, people will be more willing to move in a higher mortgage rate environment than they have in the last 12, 24 months. And we're already seeing evidence of that. Now, I don't see anybody saying we're going to blow the doors off and everybody's going to rush back in. I'm not saying that, but more people will. Two, there will be more inventory in the market, which will cause some people to move that maybe put off a decision over the last couple of years, didn't do something. I think if you start to look at that, you start to look at a little bit better mortgage rate environment. Those factors lead and point to just what is being forecasted right here. I think we'll look back on 2024 as the valley in this market. Now, not by a lot, and certainly is evidenced here, but we'll watch this year go on and see the trajectory of this market. Bankrate said this: the complexities of the current market conditions mean that now more than ever, it's smart to lean on the guidance of an experienced local real estate agent if you want to enter the housing market in 2025. Whether it's a buyer or seller, let a pro lead the way for you. There's been so much in the past year about the value of agents and what they bring to the table, that now more than ever, having a pro navigate this market alongside you as your guide is critical. So I want to maybe pose this question for you, because maybe we're at the midway point of this, a little bit past the midway point of this update. And here's the question for you: what do you believe about the year ahead? What do you believe? We've come out of a year that for a lot of people was challenging, and 2024, certainly in the real estate market, is a different market than what we've seen. But what do you believe? What do you see happening right there? I've just given you what forecasters are saying. We'll see healthy price appreciation. Nobody calling for prices to crash. We'll see mortgage rates come down incrementally. I don't see anybody saying we're going to be, in an unbelievable situation. It's going to be much more affordable, but they'll come down. We'll sell more houses in 2025. That's a good thing, right? So the reason I bring this up is there's a lot of signs pointing to optimism about the market ahead. Do I believe it's a market that's going to be a professionals market? Absolutely. Do I think we're going to slug this one out? Absolutely. But I do believe there are areas right now that we can be optimistic, and we can even create opportunity right now. Let me give you a piece of this. NAR forecasted going into 2025, and I don't know if this is going to come true or not, but let's just assume that it does become true, that there will be an 8% drop in the number of agents in this country. And who knows if that's going to happen or not. I don't have a crystal ball today, but let's assume that were to become true. Fewer agents and more sales ultimately means opportunity, right? And what's the best way to take advantage of that is understanding what a buyers need, what a sellers need, how do I navigate this market? And oh, by the way, how am I putting content out in the market that shows me as the expert and that I have a plan for this market, right? That's where I think the biggest opportunity is right now, is being able to deliver that, being able to entree that up and show people the way. You know, every year, NAR does a profile of buyers and sellers. They do a phenomenal job of saying, what are they looking for? You know, if you look at this, what did they say was the most difficult part or step in the home buying process? Finding the right property. So what do I want to do? I want to put content out there and talk about how I am helping, maybe a use case, helping folks, families, individuals find the right property for their needs. The paperwork and understanding the process, all of those things, much more important for a first-time home buyer. If you see right here in the green bar, first-time home buyers are like, look, we don't understand the process. We don't understand how to do it all. We need a professional to help us guide through this market. Saving for a down payment. This is huge for younger generations. And if you were to ask me, I think in some cases, younger generations have been sold a lie that you can't buy a home. It's a little bit harder, no doubt, but you can. There are products or resources that help you do that, no doubt. You know, NAR went on to say younger home buyers are more likely to say that one of the most difficult steps of the home buying process behind finding a property and saving for the down payment is to understand the real estate process and the steps they need to take, the study provides or finds. You know, I don't know how many people have done it recently or in the last couple of years, but first-time home buyer seminars, I think, are going to be critically important. Looking at what inventory you have in your market that fits those that are thinking about buying, those that are looking out there, a huge opportunity. What do buyers want from a real estate agent? Help finding the right property. Shows up again. This was, you know, in all of the home buying process, but shows up certainly for buyers. Terms, price negotiation, help with what's going on with the paperwork and contracting. All the things you see right here are what buyers said we want from an agent, right? So if I understand where the opportunity is, understand what buyers and sellers are looking for from me, I can help them navigate that. What about, you know, what do sellers want? Simply put, right there, you see it, marketing their home to potential buyers, doing it in a way that makes it engaging, that helps them low stress, pricing it competitively, selling within their specific time frame. What needs to be fixed up? How do I help find a buyer for this home? Sellers certainly in this market, I think if they're thinking about that, then they you know, want to work with somebody who can get it done and have an honest conversation with them about that. You know, we've talked extensively about that here in January, but also in December leading up to January. You know, I always bring this up, and I talked about, you know, as we wrap up here, we'll talk about how do you create momentum right now. I want to remind you of a couple of things. I talked about this in the last monthly market report, but if you didn't listen to that, don't worry, I'm gonna catch you up on it. There's an enormous amount of opportunity to build momentum right now through expired listings. You know, I've talked to so many agents across the country over the last couple of days that are working expired listings and seeing momentum in that. And there are a couple of reasons for it. But the first reason is the number one day on the calendar that more listings expire than any other day is December 31st. More listings come off the market, whether they're withdrawn, canceled, expired, the first week of January than they do in just about any other week of the year. And we had our friends over at RedX. Shout out to Curtis Finn, the entire team at RedX. They do a phenomenal job in the expired area. If you don't have a partner and don't have somebody that you depend on for expired data, go to RedX, talk to them. They can help you out there. But they went back and said, okay, what happened the first week of last year, 24, to say, hey, here's what we expect for 2025. And their estimations The first week is I'm recording this here in 2025, somewhere between 135,000, 150,000 expired listings in this country, more than we saw last year, more than we saw in a number of years prior. I asked Curtis, I said, there may be more expired listings this January than we've seen in the last decade, right? I mean, why is that? Things have been selling. Listings haven't expired. And let's go back to what we talked about. What does the seller want? They want an honest conversation about what it's going to take to sell this house. So if you have a listing that's expired or it's going to expire or whatever the case is, having that honest conversation is critically important, because if you don't, somebody's standing right behind you ready to have it and they have nothing to lose. They want to have that conversation. Now look at this. There's some interesting information here that I hope encourages you over the next several weeks to take a hard look at expired listings. First one, you have a window of opportunity right now. These are the average days before the seller relisted this past year. That gives us an indication of what would happen this year. Overall average days to relist, 53. Okay, so there's that window. When they relist with a different agent, hangs on a little bit longer, right? They need to find somebody they feel like they can trust. They give them the right information who can sell the home. When they relist with the same agent, tighter window, 41 days, right? So that's why if you have a listing, having an honest conversation, getting that started sooner rather than later is critically important in expired listings. The average days it took to sell once it's relisted with a new agent versus the same agent, 23 days to sell with a different agent. Hear that? I haven't talked about this in any other forum yet. 46 days with the same agent. So you want to sell your home, you want to sell it quicker. Data points to the fact from RedX, this is off actual expireds, you're going to sell it faster with a new agent. Why is that? I think that's a factor of somebody having an honest conversation and say, this is what it's going to take to sell your house. And then they say, you know what, you're right. You're right. Versus maybe just continue on down the road like we have been. I think this was unbelievable. I was so amazed when Curtis and his team brought us all this information. Most of the relisted homes have sold, the ones that came on the market last year, overwhelming majority, 58%. 71% sold after listing with a new agent versus 51%. So I'm saying all this to say, you've heard it before. It's a reminder. If you haven't, it's time to think about, what am I doing with my perspective and approach through a listing that has expired, has been canceled, has been drawn from the market, whatever the case is. They had a dream to sell. That dream didn't happen. Now what's next? Some will take the home off the market and won't relist it. There's no doubt about that. But I heard Carolyn Young say this. She's a phenomenal agent. Northern Virginia, does a great job. She said, if you will approach an expired listing with a heart to serve them and to help them sell the home, you can't go wrong, right? And 9 times out of 10, you'll probably get the listing. Not just to call them up, but really to help them sell their home. That's what they set out to do. Now, here's what I know. We talked about what buyers and sellers want, what the forecasts are for the coming year. I've covered a lot of information, even where there's opportunity with expired listings. A lot here for this January update from Keeping Current Matters. And I thought about this. I want to share it with you because I think it's critically important as we start off the year. You know, back in 1687, I got a picture of the book right there. Sir Isaac Newton wrote the book on the laws of motion, some laws of inertia. And one of the laws, you know, sort of paraphrased, is an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. Now, in our business, let's think about that. Motion is important. Momentum is important. You know, most recently in the last couple of decades, John Maxwell wrote a book, The 21 Laws of Leadership. And one of the laws of leadership was the law of the big Mo, the law of momentum. And he says this: momentum is the leader's friend. Now, here's what I know. I was talking to an agent over the break leading into the new year, and had some things going on personally and in life, and kind of just crushed this person and was hard to deal with. But here's what had happened in their business. They had momentum in their business. outside force, personal force acting in, slowed down a little bit, but didn't take them off track. Right? If you're sitting there right now and you're trying to create momentum, or you don't have momentum in your business, and something comes in, and there will be things in business, in life, in circumstances that come in and throw us off course. That's just a matter of fact. I had a friend, Andy Andrews, who always used to say, you're either in a crisis, heading towards a crisis, or coming out of a crisis in life. But if you have momentum, you will stay in motion. Maybe it slows you down a little bit, but you'll stay in motion as you go throughout the year. I believe expired listings are the resource that you need to be able to create that momentum here at the beginning of the year. I'd encourage you to check those out. As I wrap up the monthly market report, so grateful for all of our KCM members, everybody across the country that uses this information to be the expert in their market. And I'll wrap this up. We started off talking about it just a minute ago. Great agents, and you are a great agent for listening to this. You'll be able to explain exactly what's happening in this market and add in your relevant market opinion based upon all of these facts.
There we go. So did anyone else think all of those expired statistics were interesting? Like, how awesome when you go on an expired appointment or you're trying to find something to get them to call you back. If you showed them that stat that said the 46%, or sorry, 20, what was it? Now I think I wrote it down wrong. 23. Oh, that was days on the market. If you relist with another agent, it's 23 days on the market. If you list with your same agent, it's 46. So the time, money, you could be losing out on your next property. And then also 71.2% of the homes that did sell that were relisted with a new agent sold, instead of, it was 51% if they listed with the same agent. So those were awesome. And I put you guys probably all saw it. I put the link to the chat, a link to the folder that has the slides in the chat. And if you save that folder, I put them in the same folder every month. So you'll have it. But those are awesome stats to, one, know, and two, be able to print off or show someone as you're meeting with them, or if you're talking with them, to be able to spit it out way better than I did. I'm always surprised, I guess, with the information that they give us, because I just don't know all those numbers. But today I was like, kind of excited, like, ooh, we can use these numbers really well without having to explain someone's, mortgage affordability based on the treasury bonds. Like, now this is like expired. I can explain that. So I thought that was really good. But anyway, I like the data about what buyers and sellers want to learn. Oh yeah, that was great too, right? Have you seen lately in people's social, or it seems like the people that I'm following are doing a lot of questions and polls? And so that would be great to ask. Like on social, you could put out like a question box saying, when thinking about buying a new home, what questions do you have? Or, you could frame it better, but then later you can post all those. You've seen that too, where they post all the answers. I love that, because then I'm like, ooh, other people thought this too, or they picked this. If you do a poll, maybe you have the questions, but I thought that was really cool. Lori said, maybe add some of the slides to my expired program. Yes, right? Your expired mailing program. Yes. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine if you were the other age, or if you were their agent that they were maybe going to relist with, and they told you that stat of, well, you guys are like double the market time if I relist with you. So I'm glad
your perspective on that. Why do you think that is?
You know what I really think it is? And I think it's that a couple things. Number one, if you're the same agent and you are not great at having the conversation about pricing throughout, right? The next agent comes in, they're like, your price too high. And finally the seller's like, oh, I never heard that from my agent, or,
Yeah,
whatever. So I think a
thinking
lot
that
of
too.
times it is that, sort of new excitement, of course, new price generally, because, they didn't say that, like, did the price change? But that's my thoughts.
Good point.
Yeah. Justin said, I was thinking about adding a mid-month national market update with this information. Oh, that's so good. Yes. We talked about that. Justin, you're probably on that call too, a few market reports ago, where there's an agent that does like a monthly state of the market. This would be so cool to put in there. And that's all she does it on social, then emails it out to her clients. VJ says, going to reach out to all my past clients to see if they need any help, have real estate needs in mind, and ask for referrals. Yes, I love it. So Jacoby asked, what do we need to know for expireds and making calls and things like that? I don't know exactly what all the laws are that are in place, but it has to do with calling. I'm not trying to be like rude or anything. Like, just if you Google it, you'll kind of get the synopsis of what's going on with it. I'm going to have to do the same because I've not read into it. Aaron did a YouTube on it, so you could look at his channel as well if you wanted to. All right. Anything else you guys have? Good questions today. Sorry I can't answer all of them. Take care. Thank you so much. We'll see ya.